Good day, God's people. If you've accepted my Bible reading challenge that I gave 2 weeks ago, you now have finished reading Ezra and are in the middle of Nehemiah. So good job. Keep at it. I know it's a little bit challenging. There are a lot of names and numbers to plow through, but stick with it. These are great books and have so much to teach us. And as a matter of fact, that's what I want to talk about today. Ezra and Nehemiah. As we read these books, three main themes come out, and they can be summarized by these three P's: promise, persevere, and purity. First, God keeps his promises despite his people's unfaithfulness. The Jews were exiled because they were disobedient. They broke God's covenant. They rightly faced the consequences of their sins. But God didn't take away his love from them. He remained faithful to them. He promised that a remnant would return. He promised to reestablish them as a nation, and God did that. So too with us. We face the consequences of our sin. But even so, God doesn't take away his love from us. Second, persevere. Persevere in doing God's will despite the opposition. The Jews encountered so much trouble, so many threats and opposition as they went about rebuilding the temple and rebuilding Jerusalem's walls. Yet they were called to persevere. What they were doing was God's will, and they persevered and they got the jobs done. So too, when we do God's will, sometimes we will encounter opposition. But we are told to persevere, and God will see us through it, and we will accomplish what God has set for us to do. And finally, purity. Pursue purity at all costs. You see, it wasn't just the physical rebuilding of the temple and Jerusalem's walls that mattered. No, Ezra and Nehemiah were very concerned about the moral and social actions of the people. They were just as much concerned with how the people acted. And so a topic that comes up is marriage. Purity in marriage. Also Sabbath keeping and tithing. God's people are supposed to be different, set apart, and pure, and fully obedient to God's commands. So, as we plan to return from our exile in 2 weeks, keep these themes in mind. God keeps his promises, persevere in doing God's will, and pursue purity at all costs. As always, be safe, stay connected, and do not fear. And yes, keep wearing your mask.